You.
I'm well, thank you, Bruce. Yes, Alanon, he went to the Moonee Valley races yesterday with class, but perhaps a doubt on his fitness. He was vulnerable yesterday, but he passed the test, but not until he drifted from 4 to 5 out to 5 to 4 against. He was backable.
Now, speaking of class and a touch of fitness, welcome back to Max Presnell from our Sydney studio. How are you, Maxie?
Top of the morning to you, Bruce. It's nice to see you've got Doug Mulray working with you down there.
Well, no, it's his twin brother, Keith Hillier.
Max, you have got plenty of class, but sadly it's all third.
Maxie, how was the break?
Oh, the break was terrific. I thought it was a bastard of a day yesterday, though.
Really, man? We're not on 7-second delay. Keith, we might go from Max to Alanon. Do you think he can go on now? I know he's running next week in the Moonda, and he's being set for the the Manikato.
Yes, this was his warm-up race yesterday, Bruce. He's going to run successive Saturdays.
Is he a Group 1 winner, do you think? Is he good enough?
I think he might be. He's back from a bone chip operation to remove a bone chip from a fetlock joint. Yes, second at the moment. He strides up. He looks as though he's going to have a comfortable win, but it takes him a while to shake off Stamatina. We won't see Stamatina when the group races are about, but he's a pretty good colt, and this was a pretty good training gallop, I thought, yesterday for Alanon.
Well, he's going to have to take the Caltrice on next week and King Marauding and Pride of Rancho, so he'll be tested straight away, won't he?
Different opposition. Caltrice has not been beaten first up in 4 campaigns, so next week will be a different kettle of fish totally.
Max, you've got an opinion on most things. Do you like Alanon?
I thought yesterday's win was workmanlike, certainly nothing to get carried away with, but he's with a master trainer. Angus Armanasco knows what he's doing. He will improve on that performance. Whether he'll improve enough to worry Caltrice, well, that's questionable.
Yeah, Caltrice is very good fresh normally, isn't he?
Yeah, you want me to say again? 4 campaigns, 4 wins.
I was just confirming it, Keith. Hey, Max?
No dissension down there, boys, please.
Oh, Max, I might jump up there and go with you next week. Now, Ferragamo won yesterday in Brisbane. You were a bit closer to the action. She's not a bad filly, this one, Max. She come from New Zealand and won first up here. She's running third at the moment. She's a cut-out rail here to advantage. She's running third on the fence behind Capestad.
Yes, well, that's Capestad in front. Mick Dittman, the enforcer, leading on Capestad with 58. Mick, what are you doing to me? Kathy Tremaine had no trouble whatsoever rating Ferragamo, and certainly that proved conclusive. She's used her judgment of pace to perfection, and pretty vigorous too. So I think you know, there's a lot to be said yesterday for Kathy and Ferragamo. But oh gee, I don't know what's happened to the enforcer. We'll have to bring him back to Sydney and tone him up a bit.
133.4, Max. Now trainer Alan Jones has his sights on the Epsom for Ferragamo.
Well, Ferragamo's a handy racehorse, but I think he'd have to strike a substandard Epsom. Bit of difference between an Epsom and that calibre of event at Eagle Farm yesterday, and it was a very good ride. Yeah,
the Tattlers was mine. What do you think about the cutout? I mean, Ferragamo doesn't win yesterday without the cutout rail.
I still believe, Bruce, that a lot of ordinary jockeys are presented with races. I'm not saying yesterday's was an example of that, but I like the rail in its true position to where jockeys can show their skills and ride as they always did for so many years.
On a good track where the rail is in the normal position, I don't think the cutaway is relevant. I don't like it at Randwick under those conditions. I don't like to see it at Eagle Farm under those conditions. However, when you get the rail out 8 metres, well, apparently, well, there could well be a case for it. But I don't know, it doesn't really grab me, but I can go along with that argument that with these tracks, as they can get, a better spread can benefit everybody.
Rose Hill yesterday, you're in good form, by the way. I know you tipped Revels and Destroyer's Image. In Revels' race, he's in the Cerise, he comes from second last. Rimsky had to work very hard. There was much interest in this, Max, with the Inform Our Chicky Babe, in the Tropics, Osborne and Krasnopolsky all in the race, and Rimsky coming back.
Well, my sourness about yesterday hinges over Rose Hill. The ground on the rail was just no good at all. The official track description was good. It wasn't good. I don't know how you describe it. I think you just throw a skull and crossbones up so everybody knew what they were doing. But note on the outside, you can see Revels really revelling in the faster ground out wide, going to win the Tropics. Look at the horses closer to the fence.
So very patchy there.
It is very patchy, and it's unfortunate. My sympathies go to the STC. They got horses to gallop on it yesterday morning. In some parts, the track was good, but it was patchy. In other parts, it wasn't good. And I think with punters having a bet and thinking they're getting a good surface. Well, that just wasn't the case yesterday, nor was it the case at Randwick the previous Saturday. Let's get our track descriptions in order.
Well, Destroyer's Image yesterday took advantage in the straight, didn't he? He led. It was interesting in the Sydney Morning Herald. You tipped this horse at 12 to 1 at the time. He started at 4s, and you said that he's been ridden back in recent weeks. Why not ride him in front, which is his best position? But the jockey here does take advantage of the better going, doesn't he?
Yes, but he was allowed to canter in front. The stewards paid a lot of attention to this race. Actually, the stewards' report really rivals the Dead Sea Scrolls as far as length is concerned.
You've been saving this all up.
You'll note Jay Cassidy on the rail, on the favourite, who is going to come last, and he was questioned by stewards, and he pointed out the track was very bad on the fence. So there's another example. But if you let a horse like Destroyer's Image canter in front, well, he's going to get to the line.
Does it affect turnover when the track's in that condition? Betting turnover? Do people lose confidence? Do you feel it during a meeting?
Well, you don't feel it during a meeting, but I think to a degree. I think punters wisely will go where they think they're going to get the best surface. But I think that the race clubs have got to come up with an answer to say, yes, well, this track could well be a little bit dodgy. Not good, because when you go into a good track situation, you think that it's going to be fair, there's going to be no bias, and you bet accordingly. If you go in and say, well, this could be better out wide, you're a little bit more apprehensive, or you might even go to Brisbane where they've got the cutaway rail.
Keith, what about Jamie Evans? In great form again yesterday. Century Magic looked a good thing in the South Australian Grand National. His run in Melbourne was very good behind Tennessee Blue, and he certainly bolted him, didn't he?
Yes, indeed, Bruce. He started odds on, in fact, in the South Australian Grand National. Century Magic. Jamie Evans, there he is.
Well, Touch Judge was... That's
Touch Judge, who led by 30 lengths. Yeah, 30 lengths on the first lap. Okay, and he punctured, I think, about the 800-metre mark.
We show the fall coming up for another Tassie around the back of the course shortly. But you can see Touch Judge has this mighty lead early on. This race was boosted by the Victorians that went across. It was a very, very good field, but Normal John was able to run second. He won the race 2 years ago. This is the fall for another Tassie at the back of the track at Victoria Park, and then we'll pick them up with Century Magic, and you'll see him make a mighty leap, Keith, at the last.
Well, Jamie Evans sacrificed what would have been a lead in the Jockeys Premiership here, and his rivals, Craig Durden and Brian Constable, equalled him, but there's Century Magic going on to win by 16 lengths. Jamie Evans won this race last year on Best Endeavours by 18 lengths, so he's winning by an ever-decreasing margin. It'll only be 14 next season, Bruce.
They'll catch him in 7 years' time, so Evans in great form there with Century Magic. Now, we haven't got much time. Quickly, Paddy Payne's situation, the top apprentice in Victoria, his manager being basically sacked during the week, the steward saying only his master can enable or can get him rides, and he can't use a manager. What do you feel about all of that?
I think it's wrong. I think that the stewards are acting. They're administrating rules that were written before we had mobile phones, before we had phone diversions, and before jockeys had to be paid up early for rides. And I think a guy that's on the road most of the week should be able to have a manager, and the same should apply to any apprentice. Some of our racing rules need updating.
Max, I know you'd like to comment. We haven't got time. You'll be back next week.
Yes, certainly.
Good on you, Keith. Catch you next week.
Please.
Max and Keith back with the races. A break, Tour de France after this.